Have you ever met someone who seems perfectly content being misunderstood? Someone who doesn't rush to explain themselves, doesn't correct false assumptions, and actually seems to prefer when people get them wrong? In a world obsessed with personal branding and carefully curated images, these people stand out. They're not trying to be mysterious for attention. They're not playing games. There's actually deep psychology behind why some people genuinely enjoy being misunderstood. This isn't about antisocial behavior or manipulation. This is about documented psychological traits that shape how certain people interact with the world. Traits discovered through decades of personality research and cognitive science. Today, I'm going to break down the real psychology behind people who enjoy being misunderstood. You'll discover what drives this mindset, why it's actually a sign of certain personality strengths, and how understanding this can help you recognize these people in your own life, or maybe even recognize yourself. This is about psychological literacy, not judgment. This is about understanding human complexity. Let's dive in. Engagement moment. Before we continue, drop a comment. Do you know someone like this, or are you someone who enjoys being misunderstood? In the 1960s, psychologist Carl Rogers discovered something fascinating about self-concept. He found that people with high self-concept clarity, meaning they have a strong, stable sense of who they are far less dependent on external validation. What started as therapy research quickly revealed something deeper: some people genuinely don't need others to understand them correctly. This isn't limited to one personality type. You'll find this trait in creative individuals who value their inner world over social approval. You'll find it in highly intelligent people who've learned that explaining themselves is often futile. You'll even find it in trauma survivors who've built protective psychological boundaries. Understanding this mindset helps you navigate relationships with more empathy and less frustration. Here's what happens psychologically: your brain has a natural drive for social belonging, managed by your prefrontal cortex and limbic system. But in people who enjoy being misunderstood, this drive is balanced by an even stronger drive for autonomy and internal validation. Their self-worth isn't tied to being perceived correctly. It's not a defense mechanism gone wrong. It's actually a sophisticated form of psychological independence. Research from personality psychology, particularly studies on introversion, autonomy, and self-determination theory, consistently shows this pattern. I'll include sources in the description so you can explore this further. Let me break down 5 psychological traits that explain why some people genuinely enjoy being misunderstood. 1. Internal locus of identity. People who enjoy being misunderstood have what psychologists call an internal locus of identity. This means their sense of self comes entirely from within, not from how others perceive them. Here's how it works: most people build their identity through social feedback. You post something online, people react, and that shapes how you see yourself. But people with an internal locus don't need that feedback loop. They know who they are based on their own values, experiences, and self-reflection. Real-world examples. Creative contexts. An artist creates work that critics misinterpret, but they don't correct them because the art means what it means to them. Workplace situations. Someone gets labeled as cold or distant when they're actually just focused and independent. They don't waste energy correcting the perception. Social settings. At gatherings, they let people draw their own conclusions rather than performing to be liked. Why you don't notice: society teaches us that caring about reputation is responsible, so we assume everyone who doesn't explain themselves is being difficult. We miss that some people genuinely don't care about social perception. Red flags to recognize them. They rarely defend themselves against mischaracterizations. They seem unbothered when people get them wrong. They don't overshare to create connection. Interactive moment. Pause and think: do you know someone who fits this pattern? How does their confidence in being misunderstood affect how you see them? 2. High intellectual autonomy. Research on cognitive independence shows that highly intelligent or deeply introspective people often enjoy being misunderstood because they've learned that full understanding requires effort most people won't invest. The 4 stages. Stage 1, early attempts. In youth, they try to explain their complex thoughts and get frustrated when people don't understand. Stage 2, recognition. They realize that their way of thinking is fundamentally different, not better or worse, just different. Stage 3, acceptance. They stop trying to bridge the gap and accept that being understood isn't necessary for their well-being. Stage 4, preference. They actually begin to prefer being misunderstood because it filters for people who will invest in really knowing them. Why it's effective? Neurologically, their brains process information differently, often with more complexity or abstraction. Explaining this constantly is exhausting. Being misunderstood becomes a conservation of mental energy. Recognition exercise. If you notice someone who speaks in layers, who doesn't simplify their communication, and who seems perfectly fine when others don't get it, you're likely seeing high intellectual autonomy. 3. Protective privacy orientation. Many people who enjoy being misunderstood develop this trait as a sophisticated boundary mechanism. Psychologists studying privacy behaviors found that controlling what others know about you creates psychological safety. What it is, they view being misunderstood as a form of privacy protection. If people don't truly understand them, people can't manipulate, exploit, or hurt them as easily. Key insight: this isn't paranoia. It's strategic emotional intelligence. They've often experienced situations where being fully known led to vulnerability being weaponized. The psychology behind it: when you're misunderstood, you maintain power over your narrative. You control access to your true self. This creates a psychological buffer zone that protects emotional well-being. Instant recognition: they share surface information freely but never the deeper layers unless trust is deeply established over time. 4. Freedom through misperception. Here's something counterintuitive: being misunderstood actually creates freedom. When people have the wrong idea about you, their expectations are wrong too. And wrong expectations mean no pressure to perform. How it works: if people think you're aloof when you're actually deeply emotional, you're free from demands to perform emotional labor. If people think you're simple when you're actually complex, you're free from intellectual expectations. If people think you're unapproachable when you're actually selective, you're free from social obligations you don't want. This isn't manipulation. It's accepting that you can't control perception anyway, so why not let misperception work in your favor? Real-world application: think of celebrities who cultivate specific public images that are nothing like their private selves. They enjoy the freedom that misunderstanding provides. 5. Authentic connection filter. People who enjoy being misunderstood often use it as a sophisticated filtering system. If someone only knows the surface version of you and they're satisfied with that, they weren't going to connect with the real you anyway. The principle: being misunderstood by most people makes being truly understood by the right people even more meaningful. It's quality over quantity in relationship building. Why it matters: research on attachment and intimacy shows that people with this trait often have fewer but deeper relationships. They'd rather have 3 people who truly know them than 30 who think they know them. So how do you understand and interact with people who enjoy being misunderstood? Or if you're one of these people, how do you navigate a world that expects constant explanation? Strategy 1: respect the boundary. What it is: recognize that not explaining oneself is a valid choice, not a problem to fix. How to practice: when someone doesn't correct your misunderstanding, don't push for clarification. Accept that you might never fully understand them, and that's okay. Judge them by their actions over time, not by your interpretations. Why it works: psychologically, respecting boundaries builds trust. These individuals will open up when they feel genuinely accepted, not interrogated. Real-world application: next time someone seems content with your wrong assumption about them, try saying nothing. Just observe. You'll notice they become more comfortable around you because you're not demanding their internal world. Timeline: most people see a shift in the relationship within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent boundary respect. Strategy 2: value consistency over explanation. The principle: watch what they do repeatedly, not what they say or don't say once. Implementation: track patterns in their behavior over months. Notice how they show care, even if they don't verbalize it. Recognize their values through their choices, not their words. Common mistake: assuming silence means lack of depth. Often, these people are the deepest thinkers in the room, they just don't broadcast it. Success indicator: you'll know you understand them when you can predict their responses to situations without needing them to explain their reasoning. Strategy 3: if you're this person, own it consciously. Quick protection: recognize that enjoying being misunderstood is valid, but some contexts require clarity: work projects, committed relationships, parenting. Long-term skill: develop the wisdom to know when being understood matters and when it doesn't. Romantic partners and close collaborators deserve your effort to be known. Random acquaintances and critics don't. Resource recommendation: for deeper understanding of personality and autonomy, explore research on self-determination theory by Edward Deci and Richard Ryan. The bigger picture: understanding people who enjoy being misunderstood isn't about fixing them or becoming like them. It's about recognizing that human psychology is diverse. Some people need to be seen and understood to feel whole. Others feel most whole when they maintain privacy and autonomy. Neither is wrong. Both are valid expressions of human complexity. You can still connect deeply with these individuals. You just do it differently. You connect through shared experiences, not through confession. Through demonstrated loyalty, not through emotional display. Through respecting their autonomy, not through demanding vulnerability. Practical wisdom: 3 principles. 1. Trust the mystery: not everyone needs to be an open book. Some of the most trustworthy people are the ones who don't perform transparency. They simply are who they are, whether you understand it or not. 2. Quality connections matter more: if you're someone who enjoys being misunderstood, remember that depth beats breadth. Invest in the few who earn access to your true self. Let the rest believe what they want. 3. Misunderstanding isn't always rejection: sometimes being misunderstood is just neutral. It doesn't mean people dislike you. It means they have an incomplete picture, and that's okay. You don't owe anyone the complete picture unless they're in your inner circle. Empowerment message: if you're someone who enjoys being misunderstood, you're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're someone who's developed psychological independence that most people spend their whole lives trying to achieve. Your comfort with being misperceived is actually a form of confidence that doesn't need external validation. And if you know someone like this, your frustration with them is understandable, but unnecessary. They're not withholding from you maliciously. They're just existing on their own terms. And that's something worth respecting, even if you don't fully understand it. Call to growth. The question isn't whether being misunderstood is good or bad. The question is, can you accept that different people need different things to feel psychologically whole? Can you extend grace to those who don't operate the way you do? Can you recognize that someone who doesn't explain themselves might actually be one of the most self-aware people you know? So next time you meet someone who seems perfectly content being misunderstood, don't assume they're playing games or being difficult. They might just be operating from a place of deep self-knowledge and psychological autonomy that doesn't need your validation to survive. They don't need to be seen to feel seen. And honestly, that's a rare form of freedom most people never experience. If this gave you a new perspective on yourself or someone you know, share it. Comment one insight that landed for you. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into human psychology. Remember, you're allowed to be fully yourself, even if that self is only fully known to you. And that's not isolation. That's sovereignty.